Welcome to the Reader's Mind Reviews. Today we're taking a deep dive into, well, a true classic of the thriller genre. It's a book that's captivated millions for, gosh, over half a century now. And it's sparked multiple adaptations. Frederick Forsyth's The Day of the Jackal.
Ah, yes.
This isn't just, a story. It's really a masterclass in meticulous planning. A super high-stakes game of cat and mouse.
Definitely.
And it's just this fascinating blend of historical fact and, well, chilling fiction that really pulls you in. Right from the first page, you're hooked. Your attention is demanded as this whole intricate plot just unfolds.
That's absolutely right. After reading and researching this one again, we discovered how Forsyth's journalistic precision really brought this unprecedented level of realism to the political thriller. It just makes you feel every single tense moment,
Yeah.
as if you were right there watching the entire chilling operation unfold.
Yeah.
It truly sets a benchmark for the genre. I mean, one that so many authors have tried and, let's be honest, often failed to replicate.
And for those of you listening who maybe haven't picked up the book yet, or perhaps you only know one of the famous adaptations, stick with us.
Please do.
We'll tell you why it's absolutely worth picking up, and how its core themes, they still continue to resonate today, often in surprising and sometimes, unsettling ways. Even if you've read it a dozen times, our deep dive shows there are still surprising nuggets to uncover about how it was created, its ripple effects in the real world. It reveals layers you might have totally missed.
There's always something new with this one.
Before we unpack all that, though, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you never miss a Reader's Mind Reviews.
Yeah, you really won't want to miss a single insight from our deep dives.
Okay, let's unpack this. The brilliance of The Day of the Jackal, it really starts with its origins, doesn't it? They're so deeply rooted in this very real, incredibly dramatic, historical event.
Oh, completely.
We're talking about the volatile political climate in France in the early 1960s. I mean, a period that was just absolutely boiling with tension, specifically fueled by that fierce opposition to Charles de Gaulle's decision, the one to grant Algeria independence.
Exactly. And that decision, well, it was seen by so many people, particularly within the military and conservative circles, as a profound betrayal.
Betrayal of French national interests to their heritage.
Precisely. And all that anger, it's sort of coalesced into the formation of the Organisation Armée Secrète, the OAS, a French dissident paramilitary group.
Right.
They were just vehemently opposed to de Gaulle. They believed he'd sacrificed French Algeria, and their fury, I mean, it fueled multiple, often really desperate and brutal assassination attempts against him.
Wow.
It was a period of intense political turmoil, real violence, and genuine fear for the stability of the Fifth Republic.
Yeah.
Palpable tension.
And the book, it opens by essentially recounting one of the most famous and frankly harrowing of these attempts, the Petit Clamart attack, August 20th, 1962.
That's the one.
Picture this with me. De Gaulle, he's with his wife Yvonne in a motorcade. Two elegant Citroën DS19s, you know the ones?
Oh, yeah. Black.
Escorted by two motorcyclists making their way to the Villacoublay Air Base. It's about, 7:45 in the evening. On their way to Colomby-le-Deux-Églises. Seems like a routine journey.
Deadly routine on the surface.
The air is warm, the evening light's starting to fade.
And then, bam, the ambush. It wasn't just like a few rogue shots fired wildly. No. It was a carefully orchestrated, brutal attack. 12 commando members, armed with automatic weapons, they just emerged from hidden positions and opened fire. A full-on fusillade.
Just unleashed hell.
The sheer volume of gunfire was staggering. They fired 187 rounds. Can you imagine?
187?
And an astonishing 14 of those hit de Gaulle's car, riddled the vehicle. Our research indicates some bullets even struck right at the level of their faces, narrowly missing them.
Gee.
You can almost hear that deafening sound, can't you? Bullets ripping through metal, shattering glass. The absolute terror of that moment.
It's absolutely incredible to imagine surviving that. Despite the sheer volume of gunfire, the number of hits on the car, bullets flattening tires, tearing through the chassis.
Unbelievable.
Miraculously, no one in de Gaulle's immediate vehicle was killed. There was only one minor injury to a passing Panhard driver caught in the crossfire.
Just wrong place, wrong time for that poor guy.
An innocent bystander. De Gaulle, though, with his characteristic stoicism, he famously remarked upon arrival at the airbase, "This time it was close. Très près."
Huh. Understatement of the year.
Right. He even apparently calmly dusted glass from his suit before stepping out. Just Wow.
But what always fascinates me about that moment, and Forsyth really highlights this, is Yvonne de Gaulle's reaction. It's almost surreal.
Okay.
Amidst all the chaos, this near-death experience, her immediate concern wasn't for herself or her husband. It was this surprising, almost mundane question. I hope nothing happened to the chickens.
The chickens.
Yeah, referring to some frozen poultry she was bringing home in the car's baggage compartment.
No way.
It's such a disarmingly human detail, isn't it? Amidst the high drama. It just cuts through the tension with this touch of the absurd.
It truly grounds the story, doesn't it? It reminds you that even these, like, towering historical figures are just people at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
So this real-life event, this dramatic failure for the OAS, where de Gaulle literally walked away from a barrage of bullets, that sets the crucial stage for Forsyth's fictional premise.
Crucial.
Because after this very high-profile failure, the French authorities launched this intensive investigation, a huge manhunt, demonstrating their absolute resolve.
They weren't messing around.
Jean-Baptiste-Thury, the organizer of the attack, along with almost all the participants, they were caught within a few months.
Swiftly.
Bastien-Thury was sentenced to death, executed by firing squad in March 1963. Which, incidentally, was France's last execution by firing squad.
Wow, I didn't know that was the last one.
Yeah, the severity of the retribution sent a really clear message.
Oh, definitely. The sheer scale of that manhunt and the swift, brutal justice for Bastien-Thury, it just underscored how serious the French government was about protecting de Gaulle. And, maybe more importantly, how effective their counterintelligence could be against known internal threats.
Right.
It also showed the OAS, pretty starkly, that their previous methods, their reliance on internal personnel, it was catastrophically insufficient.
Yeah, they were compromised.
Totally compromised. They desperately needed an entirely new approach, someone completely outside their known network, a ghost, basically, who could operate unseen and untraced.
So this very real, very high-stakes event, this moment of incredible tension and political desperation in French history, that became the jumping-off point for one of the most iconic thrillers ever written. And here's where it gets really interesting, because it's not just the event itself, but the author, Frederick Forsyth, who shaped the book's unique, almost procedural feel.
Yes. What's truly fascinating here is how Frederick Forsyth's own background directly influenced the meticulous, almost documentary-like approach he took to writing The Day of the Jackal.
He wasn't just a novelist out of the blue.
Not at all. He was an experienced journalist, a seasoned war correspondent. He'd covered significant real-world events, like the Biafran War for the BBC and Reuters.
Right, I remember reading that.
And that experience, it instilled in him this deep, almost obsessive commitment to factual accuracy, detailed research, and presenting information with this, like objective precision.
And get this. Our research shows he was skinned stony broke when he decided to write The Day of the Jackal.
Huh. That's the story, isn't it?
He was literally, as he put it, at rock bottom.
Yeah.
Living on credit cards, facing mounting debts.
Desperate times.
He needed a quick way to clear his financial obligations, and he just poured himself into the novel. Wrote it in just 35 days on a portable typewriter.
35 days. It's astonishing for a novel with this much complexity, this level of detail, this narrative precision. It speaks volumes about his focus and, well, maybe the urgency of his situation.
Yeah, no kidding.
It really is an incredible feat. His motivation wasn't like primarily artistic aspiration initially, but sheer financial necessity.
But he still applied those rigorous journalistic skills.
Exactly. He applied his rigorous, meticulous research techniques, almost like investigative reporting, to his fiction. And this documentary-like approach, it brought a new, unprecedented level of realism to the thriller genre. He focused on authenticity, operational detail, stuff that was pretty much unheard of at the time.
You really feel it when you read it.
You do. You weren't just reading a novel. You felt like you were reading, I don't know, a classified intelligence report. Or maybe a painstakingly accurate blueprint for a real operation.
Imagine the initial publisher's regret, because our research shows the novel was actually rejected at first by several publishing houses.
Really? Why?
Publishers argued that since de Gaulle was still alive and had, survived so many assassination attempts already, a story about his assassination would seemingly lack suspense.
We already know the ending problem.
Exactly. How could you build tension around a historical event with a known outcome? But Forsyth, being the resourceful journalist he was, he just shifted his pitch.
Smart move.
He argued that the real suspense wasn't in whether de Gaulle would die, but in the intricate how. The technical details, the meticulous planning of the Jackal, and then the relentless, almost forensic manhunt to stop him.
Focusing on the process,
Yeah.
not just the result.
Precisely.
And that commitment to realism, that focus on the how, that's exactly what makes the book endure. It transcends that simple will he or won't he question. And instead, it immerses you, the reader, in this chilling how an operation like this might actually be conceived, planned, and then hunted down with such a painstaking detail.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're getting an inside look at a real clandestine operation.
Which is just incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
It's a subtle but really powerful shift that honestly redefined the thriller genre. Okay, so we have this intense historical backdrop, right? And a journalist turned novelist who writes with this almost obsessive detail. This brings us to the core narrative itself, starting with that chillingly methodical protagonist. The unnamed assassin, the Jackal.
The Jackal.
Yeah.
The OAS, totally demoralized, fractured, in disarray after their repeated failures to get to Gaulle. They realized they need a completely new strategy.
Who'd you Hail Mary pass?
Pretty much. Their internal network had proven to be deeply compromised, leading to those catastrophic failures, Bastion Theory's execution.
Right.
So they make this desperate but, strategically sound decision to hire an outside professional, someone completely unknown to both the French government and the OAS itself.
Untouchable.
Exactly. And this is where the unnamed British hitman enters the picture. A man of absolute discipline, cold pragmatism. He later chooses the codename the Jackal.
And his Christ.
A staggering $500,000. Half paid up front, which just shows you how desperate the OAS was and maybe how formidable the Jackal's reputation already was.
$500,000 back then. Wow. And the book just meticulously details his preparations. It's almost like a step-by-step manual, isn't it? Frightening in its precision.
It really is.
He starts with that critical step, identity theft. Acquiring a legitimate British passport under a fake name, Alexander Duggan.
And not just any fake.
No! This wasn't a simple forgery. He exploited a real-life loophole by using the identity of a deceased child.
Which is just chilling.
It was so shockingly accurate, exposed such a glaring vulnerability in the UK passport system that the method actually became known as Day of the Jackal fraud.
No kidding. The book named the fraud.
Yeah. And apparently it was only truly plugged, like systematically addressed, in 2007 because of the book's popularity and the real-world risks it highlighted.
That is astonishing. A fictional plot device revealing a major security flaw for decades.
Amazing, right?
Beyond that, his mastery of disguise is just key. He meticulously plans multiple layers of false identities, steals passports from foreign tourists for contingencies, always has a backup for his backup.
He's thinking steps ahead.
Always. And he physically transforms himself with subtle changes. The book hints at meticulous attention to hair dye, contact lenses, makeup, specific clothing to alter his appearance. But crucially, he also practices expert language skills, adopts specific mannerisms to truly embody different characters. He just vanishes into plain sight.
And then the tools of the trade, the weapon itself.
Oh, yeah. He commissions a master gunsmith in Brussels for this special suppressed sniper rifle, designed to be incredibly slim, capable of being broken down into parts, easily concealed within everyday objects like a crutch or, an artist's easel.
Ingenious. And deadly.
And deadly. This rifle also fires mercury-tipped explosive bullets, which just sounds terrifyingly effective, utterly untraceable to a standard weapon. He's not just a shooter, he's like an engineer of his own destruction.
Wow.
And then there's the exhaustive research, the reconnaissance. He pores over every detail of de Gaulle's habits, his routines, his public appearances, studies maps, security protocols, to identify the perfect time and place.
Leaving nothing to chance.
Nothing. He zeroes in on August 25th, 1963, the Liberation of Paris ceremony. Knowing de Gaulle's vanity, his sense of duty would absolutely ensure his public presence, making him a predictable target.
And his ruthlessness. It's just as striking as his precision, maybe even more so.
The Jackal's cold pragmatism is a defining, almost chilling trait. He just dispatches anyone who hinders his progress.
Yeah.
Without hesitation, without remorse, calculating their elimination as just another logistical problem to solve.
Like the forger.
Exactly. He murders the forger who tried to blackmail him, locks his body in a trunk just to delay discovery. Simply a loose end to be tied.
Ice cold.
This level of detail, it makes the Jackal feel incredibly real, almost to the point where you, the reader, find yourself kind of uncomfortably admiring his chilling precision work ethic and meticulous planning. even if you don't condone his monstrous actions.
Yeah, you shouldn't root for him, but...
But you're fascinated by his competence. He's not a monster of emotion, but a monster of pure, unadulterated professionalism.
I totally agree. It's uncomfortable, isn't it? You're reading about this villain, yet you're just fascinated by his sheer competence.
Okay, so we have this almost inhumanly capable assassin, this master planner who leaves no stone unturned. But what about the other side? Because as we know, for every master planner, there's usually a master detective, right? Someone equally formidable trying to unravel their perfect design.
And that's where Commissioner Claude Lebel comes in. The unassuming but actually quite brilliant French detective appointed as the point man for the investigation.
How do they even find out about the Jackal?
Well, the French authorities get this crucial, albeit tiny, kernel of information, just the name Jackal, extracted under duress from a tortured OAS bodyguard named Kowalski.
Ah, right.
But despite this grave existential threat, de Gaulle, notoriously careless about his personal security, famously disdainful of fear, he refuses to change his public schedule or allow a public inquiry.
Why not? That seems crazy. He demanded absolute secrecy, believed the public panic would undermine the state, which creates this immense, almost impossible challenge for Lebel. Find an unknown assassin without revealing the hunt is even on.
Talk about pressure. And Lebel himself, he's such an unassuming character in the book.
He really is. He's not flashy, not like your typical fictional super detective with dramatic deductions or some tragic backstory.
No fedora and trench coat.
No. He's described as short, plump, with an unremarkable face. But his brilliance lies precisely in his persistence, his almost obsessive attention to detail, his system.
The system.
He methodically builds this network of international police contacts, patiently making phone call after phone call, following every single lead, no matter how small or insignificant it seems. Superintendent Bryn Thomas from Scotland Yard becomes this key ally, a quiet, equally methodical counterpart across the channel.
So it's international cooperation.
Absolutely crucial. It's a true cat-and-mouse chase, with Lebel just narrowing in bit by bit, detail by detail, piecing together clues with painstaking, often really tedious police work, analyzing hotel registers, cross-referencing passport applications, the real nuts and bolts of detection.
And the novel's tension, it's significantly heightened because you, the reader, you know both sides of the story simultaneously.
Exactly. You witness the Jackal's intricate planning, his calculated movements, his careful disguises and escapes.
While Lebel is still trying to figure out who Duggan even is.
Right, but you also see Lebel's methodical investigation, his quiet determination, his moments of frustration, and even his brilliant success in uncovering an OAS mole right within the highest levels of the French Security Council.
Why don't you do that?
Through simple but persistent telephone taps. Just quiet, diligent police work yielding huge results. It's like watching a classic episode of Columbo, you know?
Yeah.
You know who the killer is from the start, and the real joy comes from witnessing how the detective meticulously puts together the pieces through sheer doggedness to catch them.
This section really makes you appreciate the painstaking, often unglamorous work of real detective forces. It's not always about dramatic shootouts or brilliant flashes of insight.
Not at all.
It's about the grind, the details, the quiet intelligence, the relentless pursuit of facts. It just grounds the whole fantastical plot in this profound sense of realism.
Absolutely. It shows that sometimes sheer tenacity and logical deduction, combined with a deep understanding of human behavior, are far more effective than any, dramatic flair or superhuman abilities. It's a real tribute to the quiet heroes of the police force.
And this methodical cat-and-mouse game, it builds and builds to the absolute climax of the story, the assassination attempt itself.
The big day.
It occurs on August 25, 1963, during the Liberation of Paris ceremony, a huge public display of French pride and patriotism. The Jackal, meticulously disguised as a one-legged veteran.
The ultimate camouflage.
He's expertly concealed his custom sniper rifle in a crutch. He's taken position in an apartment overlooking the ceremony, a seemingly perfect vantage point.
Everything seems set.
Meanwhile, Lebel, using a combination of intuition, tireless questioning, and this sudden, desperate flash of insight, he realizes the Jackal's precise plan and is rushing to the scene, desperately trying to prevent the inevitable in these final agonizing moments.
And This is where we encounter what some readers, myself included on first read, might consider the fatal storytelling flaw.
Okay, the ending. Let's talk about it.
The Jackal, with all his meticulous planning, his lethal precision, his perfect shot lined up. He takes his first shot, but it misses it to Gaulle. by a fraction of an inch.
A fraction. After all that, why?
Because de Gaulle, at that precise unforeseen moment, unexpectedly leans forward to kiss the cheeks of the veteran he is honoring.
A kiss.
A kiss. It's a single human moment.
It's so
a
rare.
spontaneous, culturally specific gesture of affection and respect that completely undoes everything the Jackal has planned, shatters his perfect cold calculation.
Wow.
Lebel then arrives. There's a brief, tense exchange in the apartment, and Lebel shoots the Jackal dead, bringing the hunt to a definitive and perhaps, abrupt end.
So what does this all mean for the reader? Because I get it, many find this ending, well, disappointing, almost anticlimactic after such a monumental buildup. After all that meticulous planning, building up this incredibly precise, almost infallible assassin, he misses because of a spontaneous kiss. It feels almost like a fluke.
It does feel like that.
It's not Lebel's direct action that causes the miss. It's just life happening. Doesn't that kind of undermine the genius Forsyth spent chapters building?
Yeah.
Making the villain feel almost small in his defeat.
It's a completely valid reaction, and I absolutely hear that frustration, but what if that fluke is precisely the point Forsyth was trying to make?
Okay.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it actually highlights a profound truth that Forsyth masterfully wove into the narrative. No matter how perfect your plan, life is inherently unpredictable. The Jackal's failure wasn't due to a lack of skill or Lebel's direct intervention causing the miss. It was because he couldn't account for human spontaneity, or, maybe more subtly, cultural nuances that he, as a non-Frenchman, couldn't fully internalize or predict.
Wow.
He mastered the technical aspects, the disguises, the language, sure. But that one intimate cultural gesture, that traditional kiss of congratulations, it was something an Anglo-Saxon, as Forsyth calls him, like the Jackal couldn't foresee or factor into his cold calculations.
So his very foreignness, which was his greatest strength in terms of anonymity, ultimately became his greatest weakness in that final crucial moment, the ultimate irony.
Exactly. His cold pragmatism and detached professionalism ensure that you, the reader, do not shed a tear for him in the end. His death feels earned, even if it holds a strange kind of tragedy in its utter randomness, its mundane trigger.
Yeah, you don't feel sorry for him.
Not really. It's a powerful statement about the limits of control in a messy human world, about how even the most brilliant, most comprehensive plans can be undone by the simplest, most unforeseen human element. Which raises an important question for you, the listener. Does a perfect plan necessarily require a perfect execution? Or does reality always introduce an element of chance that even the most meticulous mind cannot account for?
That's deep.
It really makes you think about how much control we actually have, even in the most carefully constructed scenarios.
That's a profound thought, and it leads us perfectly into how this story, with its central themes of meticulous planning versus unexpected reality, has evolved over the decades, because the novel's immense success led to immediate adaptations, right? But as is often the case with beloved books, not all of them quite hit the mark.
True. The 1973 film, the one starring Edward Fox as the Jackal and Michelle Lonsdale as Lebel, that one is widely considered quite faithful to the book.
That's the classic one.
Yeah. It captures much of its procedural realism, that slow burn tension, while it does make some, cosmetic changes, like the Jackal goes to Genoa for his rifle instead of Belgium, or they add a minor car accident to his journey, just add a little hurdle, little tweaks. But it largely captures the essence and the methodical, almost detached tone of the novel really effectively. It's generally the go-to recommendation for fans of the book who want a visual representation that aligns with Forsyth's original vision.
But then there's the 1997 film, also titled The Jackal, starring Bruce Willis and Richard Gere.
Oh boy, that one.
This one is, well, it bears a little resemblance to the plot of the novel or the original film, and that's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
It completely changes the target to an American politician, transforms it into this, conventional Hollywood action thriller, stripping away all the intricate planning, the historical context that made the original so compelling.
Lost the soul of it.
Totally. Honestly, most reviews, and our research definitely concurs, they encourage avoiding this one entirely. If you're looking for anything remotely like Forsyth's masterpiece, it's almost a different story entirely, just with the name loosely attached.
It really illustrates the challenge, doesn't it? Adapting a beloved, meticulously crafted original. Sometimes too many changes just dilute the core appeal, transforming it into something unrecognizable, losing the very essence that captivated readers in the first place.
I couldn't agree more. But now, decades later, the story has been updated again for a whole new generation. And it's quite a departure, this one that tries to make the themes relevant to a completely different era.
Right.
Let's unpack the most recent version, the 2024 TV show.
Okay, the 2024 show, starring Eddie Redmayne as the Jackal. It aimed explicitly to update and build on the story by resetting it entirely to modern day. Huge swing. It's a significant departure from the historical fiction of the original, bringing that core cat-and-mouse game into a contemporary global landscape, complete with all the technological advancements and modern anxieties that entails. It's definitely an ambitious reinterpretation.
And the differences are pretty fundamental, aren't they? Starting with the very fabric of the world it inhabits. For starters, the setting and technology have been completely overhauled. The original was pre-internet, pre-global surveillance networks, when a paper trail was the main concern.
Right? Analog world.
But now, the Jackal operates in a digital age. He uses encrypted internet chat rooms for communication. He plans with 3D printed weapons. He's constantly manipulating cutting-edge tech to his advantage, facial recognition software, digital footprints.
He's a digital ghost now.
Exactly, a digital era assassin, which changes the nature of the hunt entirely and raises all these questions about modern privacy and vulnerability.
And the target is also completely different, reflecting this shift in kind of perceived societal threats.
Yeah, no de Gaulle this time.
Yeah. No de Gaulle, who is, let's face it, less known to today's global audience.
Yeah.
The new target is Uli Dag Charles, or UDC.
Fictional character.
Right, a fictional tech billionaire whose philanthropic program called River aims for radical financial transparency, threatening to expose and destabilize the hidden wealth of the world's mega wealthy.
So it taps into modern anxieties about big tech and wealth inequality.
Precisely. This directly threatens the very powerful, very rich individuals who've hired the Jackal, making the plot incredibly relevant to contemporary anxieties about wealth, power, and the opaque nature of global finance.
And the hunter has also changed dramatically. The unassuming French detective Claude Lebel, he's gone.
Yep. Replaced by Bianca Pullman, an MI6 agent played by Lashana Lynch. Our research shows she's portrayed as tenacious, highly intelligent, but she uses much more aggressive methods in her pursuit.
More action-oriented?
Definitely. Often bending the rules, operating in this high-stakes international intelligence world. It marks a very different, much more kinetic approach to the investigation than Lebel's quiet, methodical police work.
And perhaps the most striking, maybe controversial change is the Jackal's identity and morality.
Oh, absolutely fundamental change. In the original novel, precious little was revealed about him, right? He had no emotional connections, no life outside work. He was clearly the villain. A stone-cold, almost robotic killer.
A blank slate, almost.
Totally. The 2024 Jackal, Charles Calthorpe, is, in stark contrast, portrayed as a loving husband and father, living this complex double life in Spain.
Wow, that's different.
It's a fundamental shift that significantly blurs the moral lines. He's motivated not purely by cold professionalism, but by greed, vanity, or some other motivation linked to his past. Yet he surprisingly exhibits moments of empathy, even vulnerability. It completely reframes how you view him.
And the employers have also been updated, reflecting a modern shift in perceived threats.
Yep. The far-right terrorist OAS, born of those colonial grievances, is replaced by a small collaborative team of billionaire business executives operating from a high tower in New York.
The modern villains.
Right. They hire a go-between to keep their hands clean, creating this chillingly modern twist on the original's political extremism, suggesting that power and corruption can come from unexpected, seemingly legitimate corners of society.
And the disguises. I heard they were pretty elaborate in the show.
Oh yeah, they took full advantage of modern cinematic techniques. While the book hinted at subtle changes, the 2024 show has the Jackal undergoing these profound physical transformations, using advanced prosthetics, embodying unique personalities with incredible range.
Eddie Redmayne must have had fun with that.
Reportedly, yes. Using expert language, makeup, clothing, truly becoming a different person, not just looking like one.
But perhaps the most dramatic and certainly the most impactful change of all is the ending itself.
The ending. Big departure here.
In the novel, the Jackal fails. He doesn't assassinate de Gaulle, and he's killed by Lebel. Definitive conclusion.
Yep. Case closed.
In the show, the Jackal manages to successfully eliminate UDC and avoid being captured.
Whoa. He wins.
He wins the objective. Bianca tracks him down, but in their final confrontation, the Jackal kills her, survives himself, and vanishes.
Kills the protagonist. Wow.
It completely subverts the original ending, alters the core message of the story, and clearly sets up potential future seasons or continuations. It's a huge departure, shifting from a story about justice, maybe chance prevailing, to one where the ultimate professional succeeds, but at a terrible cost.
These changes, they undeniably make the story relevant to modern audiences, exploring contemporary issues like tech wealth, financial transparency, modern espionage.
Sure.
However, they also fundamentally alter the characters, their motivations, and the philosophical core of the original, which has naturally drawn critical perspective. While some viewers found the changes intriguing, necessary even for modern retelling, others felt they introduced plot holes or just didn't do justice to the original character's stone-cold killer persona.
Right, the purity of the original Jackal.
Exactly. The original Jackal had no emotional connects, doesn't leave loose ends. The shift to a sympathetic family man might feel like a poor explanation, or even a betrayal for some fans of the original's purity of purpose, where the Jackal was simply competence personified, devoid of relatable human weakness.
Yeah.
And this raises that important question again. When a story is so deeply rooted in its original context, in a specific historical moment and its inherent themes, how much can it be changed before it becomes something else entirely, before it loses the very soul of what made it a classic?
That's a great question, and it brings us to a fascinating aspect of the 2024 show. Its deeper dive into the Jackal's psychology. This is something the original book didn't really explore in nearly as much detail. The original Jackal was, like we said, a blank slate, defined only by his actions.
Yes, the 2024 series delves significantly deeper into the Jackal psyche. It attempts to provide a psychological profile, a backstory. He's portrayed as Charles Calthorpe, a former elite British Army sniper.
Okay, some military background.
Right. And his meticulously precise, emotionally detached nature, while reflecting traits often seen in, say, high-functioning psychopaths or individuals with extreme focus, is also linked to profound past traumas.
The trauma angle.
Specifically, a war crime committed by his own team in Afghanistan. An incident that fractured his moral compass, led him to fake his death and embrace the anonymity and darkness of becoming the assassin we see.
So his coldness isn't just innate villainy. It's presented as this complex response to a profound traumatic event, a coping mechanism for an unbearable past.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
The show suggests potential diagnoses like PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, from his military trauma, and it even touches upon neurodiversity.
Really? How so?
We see traits like rigid black and white thinking, definite social awkwardness in certain non-professional situations, and this intense hyperfocus on his skills. Almost an inability to reason through emotions, which drives his extreme pragmatism.
So it's trying to explain him more.
Exactly. This psychological depth attempts to explain where his antisocial tendencies may have come from, making him a much more complex and perhaps tragically human character than the original's purely professional killer. The portrayal of his dual existence, the cold, efficient professional versus the loving husband and father who cherishes his private life, hints at this significant internal conflict that the original never explored.
And it introduces an interesting dynamic with his pursuer, Bianca Pullman, right? Her approach is different.
Totally different. Her emotion and intuition-driven chaotic approach directly clashes with his meticulous planning, forcing him to react rather than dictate the terms of engagement.
Flipping the script on him.
Our research suggests this is presented as his greatest weakness in the show. When his perfect plans are disrupted by human unpredictability, he's forced to improvise. And that's where his emotional vulnerabilities can emerge. It's fascinating how a modern adaptation can add these layers of psychological complexity that simply weren't part of the original narrative. Gives you a lot more to chew on about his motivations and internal world.
Definitely adds layers.
But regardless of the adaptations and their varying fidelities, the original book, The Day of the Jackal, it just has this undeniable and enduring legacy. It continues to echo through literature and even, weirdly, real life.
Yeah, the impact was huge from the start.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It received admiring reviews and praise right from its publication in 1971. Instantly became a critical darling. Went on to win a prestigious 1972 Edgar Award for Best Novel, cementing its place in the thriller canon.
And it sold Millions.
Millions, over 10 million copies worldwide. It was even listed on the BBC's The Big Read survey in 2003 as one of the UK's most loved books.
Its realism was truly groundbreaking for its time, almost revolutionary, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Forsyth's ability to weave fact and fiction into a seamless narrative, creating this sense of absolute authenticity. It was a game changer for the genre.
Like the passport thing?
Exactly. The shockingly accurate method for obtaining a fake passport, the day of the Jackal fraud, we discussed, using the identity of a deceased child, is a perfect, chilling example of this. It wasn't just a clever plot device. It was a real loophole he exposed to the world, a testament to his journalistic eye for detail and vulnerability.
It set a new standard.
It set a new standard for the political thriller genre, pushing it beyond simple espionage narratives into realms of detailed procedure and high-stakes cat and mouse. It profoundly influenced a whole generation of writers who followed. You can see its DNA in the intricate plots of Robert Ludlum, the military precision of Tom Clancy.
Yeah, you can definitely see the influence.
Forsyth himself has been consistently called a master of suspense and intrigue, someone who could turn geopolitical chaos into page-turning precision, transforming complex, often dry, political machinations into utterly gripping narratives. He really showed how a thriller could be intelligent, detailed, and utterly gripping without sacrificing realism.
And its influence wasn't just on other writers. Incredibly, it reached into the real world in some unexpected and, frankly, pretty chilling ways, demonstrating the immense power of narrative, even fictional ones.
Indeed. The novel has been tied to real-life figures and events, which is just a testament to how deeply The Day of the Jackal immersed readers in the mechanics of such a plot, making the seemingly impossible feel terrifyingly plausible.
Like Carlos the Jackal.
Exactly. The infamous Venezuelan terrorist Ilich Ramirez Sanchez earned his notorious nickname Carlos the Jackal because a copy of The Day of the Jackal was found near his belongings during a raid.
Wow.
Although, ironically, his actual personality and operational style were quite different from the meticulous, anonymous fictional assassin. Carlos was more of a flamboyant, often clumsy but lucky playboy.
Not quite the surgical precision of the book's Jackal?
Not at all. While the book's Jackal valued anonymity and surgical precision above all else.
And then there are the even more direct, unsettling connections, which kind of delve into the murky waters of how art can, intentionally or not, inform reality.
Yeah, this part is quite disturbing. A Hebrew translation of the novel was found in the possession of Yigal Amir, the assassin of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin back in 1995.
No, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Police even speculated, quite disturbingly, that the book may have been used as a guide, or at least an inspiration, for his own planning.
That's incredibly chilling.
And similarly, Vladimir Arutinian, who attempted to kill U.S. President George W. Bush in Georgia in 2005, he was apparently an obsessive reader of the novel, reportedly kept a highly annotated version for his own planning, marking specific passages and methods.
Wow.
This unintended consequence of the book's realism, it raises profound questions, doesn't it, about the responsibility of authors, the sheer, sometimes dangerous power of narrative to captivate, and, in rare instances, even instruct. It highlights how convincingly Forsyth detailed the operational aspects of an assassination, making it this double-edged sword of masterful storytelling.
So what does this all mean for us today? The Day of the Jackal, whether you're looking at its meticulously crafted original form or its bold, modern reimagining, it remains this compelling study of obsession, precision, and ultimately the unpredictable nature of fate. It's a story that continues to adapt, reflecting the anxieties and technologies of its time while staying true to that core tension of the hunt. That relentless cat-and-mouse dynamic between a singular driven force and the vast, intricate network designed to stop them.
And this raises that important question again, maybe the central one. Does the core, enduring appeal of the story ultimately lie in its painstaking, meticulous detail? Is it the enigmatic character of the Jackal himself? Or perhaps, most universally, is it just our timeless fascination with the cat-and-mouse dynamic, that primal chase between hunter and hunted?
Hard to say for sure.
Regardless of your personal answer, it's an undeniable classic. It offers layers of depth with each reread or rewatch, and its profound influence is still felt across the thriller genre and clearly beyond.
Absolutely. For newcomers, it's an introduction to a foundational thriller that sets standards for realism and suspense that are still admired today. You really should check it out.
Definitely.
For seasoned readers, it's a chance to revisit a classic and see how it holds up, or how it's been reinvented for a new era, prompting new insights and discussions. If you're wondering whether this one's for you, let us assure you what makes it stand out. We really think it's worth your time to experience this masterpiece. We've included a link in the description below. If you'd like to grab the book yourself, go on, treat yourself.
Do it.
For more Reader's Mind reviews, check out our thoughts on Sherlock Holmes, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Jane Eyre, and more, all waiting for you in the playlist.
And if you've made it this far and still haven't subscribed, honestly, Robert's tea is getting cold waiting for you to hit that button.
It really is. Lukewarm at best now.
Show some love. We'll see you on the next deep dive.